Have you ever truly been scared? Where your anxiety spikes and makes you want to jump out of your skin? Your heart beating so hard it feels like it could crack through your chest? Maybe you have, and maybe you haven't. If you found this podcast, you must have that curiosity. Welcome to Within the Crypt. I am your host, the Gatekeeper. I'll bring you the scariest stories and urban legends. So sit back and relax and fall into the story. On today's episode, we're going to be reading 3 truly terrifying stories from the subreddit paranormal. This first story was posted by user Della Curls. The title of this is My Mom Saw La Llorona in Mexico when she was 15. Alright, so this story has been told to me by my mom a few times, and every single time I still get that creepy, eerie feeling that someone is watching me. My mom is from a small town in Mexico located in Zacatecas. When she was around 14, she had the habit of waking her mom up to go to the restroom, since it was an older home and the restroom was located outside. My mom tells me that it was around 3 a.m. when she woke up and felt the need to use the restroom urgently, so she began calling out for her mom. After a while, her mom not responding, she began getting agitated and started screaming. At this point, my mom turns around. At the foot of her bed, she sees her mom standing there. She was wearing a white robe but had a very bleak expression on her face, and both of her arms were extended. My mom said that she suddenly felt extremely cold and had a huge sense of dread. She had never seen her mom wear a white robe. That's when she looked down and saw her mom's feet weren't touching the floor. At that moment she screamed and quickly threw the covers over her head. Her mom, wearing something completely different, runs in to find my mom shaking in her bed. Nobody believed my mom. Everyone told her it was a dream. Until a few days later, there was a power outage. During this, my mom and a few of her siblings, with her parents, all decided to sleep in the living room. At around the same time at 3 a.m., they heard the same undeniable wails of La Llorona down the street. None of them slept that night. This next story comes by user XNYR21. The story is called I watch security cameras for a living, and I saw something that sent chills down my spine. So I saw this about 4 years ago at work, and it creeped me the fuck out. I work for a digital surveillance company that runs the eye in the sky for thousands of restaurants, bars, and gas stations across the U.S. From time to time, we get calls for investigations to look into robberies, theft, etc. So one day, we get a call from a popular fast food chain located in the heart of Detroit. They say an employee OD'd by the dumpster and they needed us to get some answers on the situation. First, basically what happened and how long was he there. The next question is where it starts to get weird. See, the dumpster had a brick wall around it. It had 2 entrances to the dumpster, a gate you had to pass when you walked out of the back door, and the big gates where the garbage truck has access to the dumpster to empty it out. They claimed those big gates were always open, and the small gate by the back door was locked from the inside. Nobody ever used the smaller gate. The weird thing was, when the body was found, an employee walked out. That gate that was never open was indeed open, and the body was sitting there on full display. So their next question was, who the fuck opened that gate? So we downloaded the footage. One night the employee goes outside, throws out the trash. You can kind of see him through the locked gate that was never open. It was see-through but very difficult to see though. The way the camera was angled, you could kind of see over the top also. He injects himself, slumps over, and keels over dead behind the dumpster. He was out there for 2.5 days. No employees ever come to look for him. It's pouring rain both days. For 2 days, employees come and go, taking out the trash and not seeing him. Then, on the third day, in the morning sunshine, clear as fucking day, the gate just slowly opens by itself. Nobody comes, nobody goes. The gate just fucking opens by itself, and the body is sitting there in the same position it was 2.5 days earlier. I literally felt chills down my spine. To this day, I can't explain it without thinking it was paranormal. Anyway, a couple hours later, an employee walks out with a trash bag, sees the body, freaks out, and calls the police. I didn't write it, but we basically had to write a report on how a gate apparently opened itself. This last story comes by user either_difference_20. The name of the story: I believe the ghost of a suicide victim tried to get me to kill myself too. I shared this story in a comment in an Ask Reddit post and realized it would probably be appreciated here. This is a true story. Trigger warning for suicide. My husband and I moved into an apartment a couple of years ago where I started to basically go insane. It always felt like someone was watching me. I became horrifically depressed. I would get so sad that sometimes I would even just spontaneously start crying. I often fantasized about hanging myself from the rafters in this one room. I would sometimes hear the rafters creaking and go in there, then imagine hanging in front of the window, being the cause of the creaking. I had been depressed in the past, but this was something on another level. I was seriously suicidal, despite being happily married and genuinely enjoying life before moving into this place. I thought that I had some serious mental illness that was emerging. Several months into living there, our neighbor, a sweet old woman, had lived in the building for decades, told us that a young woman hung herself from the rafters in that room in the late 80s. She was discovered by a man walking his dog who saw her hanging in the front window. Our neighbor said she was a very unfriendly person who kept to herself and never had anyone over. According to her, every single one of the female tenants in their mid-20s to early 30s that have moved in since her suicide never renewed their leases past the first year, and all seemed troubled, as she put it, while they lived there. I was 27 at the time, the exact same age she was when she died. My husband and I noped the fuck out of there pretty much immediately after we learned this. We still had a few months left on our lease, so we had to pay double rent during that time, but it was worth it. Literally the day we got out, my mental health recovered completely and has been back to normal ever since. I believe with all my heart that she was there in the apartment with us, and for whatever reason, she wanted me to repeat history and endure the same fate as her. Thank you for listening to this episode of 3 quick but still creepy stories from the subreddit paranormal. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and if you would consider, please follow wherever you are listening to this from so you'll be updated when a new episode airs. Again, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.